Hello everyone, it's Dom Sacco here from Esports News UK. I've got a special guest with me today, NLC caster Duckling. How's it going, Duckling? Thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me, Don. Thanks for having me. I mean, it's going well. I'm enjoying my time here, getting back into the swing of things with NLC and having my first exam period of uni has certainly led to a chaotic start to the year. But I've thoroughly enjoyed it, right? And the atmosphere around the NLC is better than I've ever experienced it. So I'm enjoying every minute.
It's so exciting. I mean, we've got a great broadcast lineup. Jamada's back, Trouble's back. We've got a real mix of experience, and I noticed yourself and Solari when you were announced on the broadcast list. I was like, do you know what? I linked to previous interviews I'd conducted with all the other broadcast talent. I didn't have interviews with you and Solari, so I wanted to rectify that. So we've interviewed Solari now, and we're interviewing you, and I'm really happy to be doing that. And I mean, you've mentioned NLC. Let's jump straight into that. Week one, record viewership. I think peak viewership for the Nord Los Ratones game was like 177,000. I've gone across. I've looked at different VODs and scrim videos and tweet clips, and we're going into the millions of views when you add all that
Mm.
up. What are your thoughts on week one and this
Nah, I
exciting
mean,
year ahead?
I think it's brilliant, right? I think we're getting some eyes on the scene now to a degree that we have never seen before, which is really really nice. I think as well it breathes fresh life and motivation into every single part of the NLC. I mean, uh, the environment now cultivated behind the scene is really one of motivation and drive, not just for us talent, but for the production as well, right? Everyone associated I've talked to in any chain of this product is really working day and night to make sure we put the best end product out there, and it feels really really good to see these new viewers come in, not just to watch K-Drew, but I did notice a surprisingly large amount, I will say, stick around for the rest of the day after Lost Ratones played, right, to check out what was the rest of the competition like, asking questions in chat about the players, and it feels really really nice to have K-Drew point more eyes in our direction, and I mean Ruddy Cope or Ruddy Sack as well, right? With I Will Dominate. So it's really good to get all these new viewers in, and I'm really happy to see not just how they are, turning up for their own team, but also interested in seeing how the rest of the teams are, and learning more about the league as a whole.
Yeah, it's a good point you made there. It creates a sort of knock-on effect because I think Verdant's founder Sammy said that they had around 650,000 views. I'm guessing that's across all the the different media, the different channels. But that's amazing for a grassroots UK esports organisation to get that. And I also feel like the UK and Nordics it feels more together now. A lot of these teams, you have a lot of Nordics talent on some of these UK orgs. You have obviously we've got the UK EL as well, but it feels like it's brought the scene together a bit more. We feel a bit more unified.
Yeah, I mean, I think people have realized, right, how big of an opportunity this is. So everyone again, like wants to make the most of it, right? Wants to make sure that whatever we put out there is the best, and I think that goes for everyone associated with the league, right? And I think that has led to more togetherness because we're all in this to make the league grow. At the end of the day, obviously, each and every team wants to see themselves succeed, but seeing the league succeed as well is often a part of that, right? So I think there's good unity right now, and it's really really good to see the high spirits in and around the NLC.
Yeah, 100%. If we go back then, Duckling, I'd love to hear about your background because you were the first. Well, sorry, you were the youngest caster on the EMEA Masters a few years ago. I think was this 2022. You were 18.
Mm.
So you've hit the scene as a sort of young rising star, and Liquipedia or a fandom site tells me that you started out as a social media manager at Tricked. So yeah, I'd love to hear about your background.
Yeah, I mean, there are many chains to it, right? But I mean, shortly tell it, you could say I started casting at a Danish LAN, like a local CSGO tournament, and really found it fun. And then I found something called Square One, as you might remember from back in the day,
Yeah.
right? I found them just when they started out, and I actually casted their first ever final along with, I believe, Trajan or CJ, right?
Oh yeah.
When I was 15 and having voice cracks and all this, and that then led into me covering the Danish scene, which I'm very happy I did for a few years until I will say my big break in 2021 where Kulborg picked me up
Right.
and really showed me the ropes, right? Took me um, from just pure young excitement into more the structure and style and the technical things needed to be a commentator at a higher level or caster, right? And that all led into the 2022 when I got my NLC Division 2 debut, and then somehow snuck my way into EU Masters, right, without having ever covered an EOL run, which I think is probably also the first time that has happened, unless maybe you cover another big league like the LPL or whatever, right? So it was a breakout year, and then down in the studio for most of the summer, guesting in, and I loved every minute flying to and from Berlin with the wonderful people, as you say now, Jamada, Trouble, Arstrom, of course. These guys were all very, very welcoming in me down there, and I'm very happy to get to work with some of them again, who I haven't in a few years now.
Yeah, they seem like a great bunch. And so were you a Counter-Strike person more than League of Legends?
Nah, I mean, I've played League since I was 9, right? But I'm Danish as well, so Counter-Strike is in Denmark's DNA. So I watched a lot of Astralis when they were, reigning the world. Even my dad did back then, of course, right? Like, it was something that really got esports into the main scene in Denmark. I could go to my grandparents, and when I talked to them, even about my League of Legends thing, they would always ask into Astralis. So, of course, I kept an eye on how they were doing, right? And I find Counter-Strike to be a fun esports to watch, and I have some few friends in Denmark who I go to events with and watch when they come. So I like Counter-Strike, but League is that is my game. I love League of Legends.
That's interesting. You've been playing it since 9, because my eldest boy is 8 and he really wants to play it. He's played like the practice tool and the training a little bit, but my wife is a real stickler for age ratings, and because it's technically a 12, and some of the bits in it as well. Like when he did the training mode, I think he picked Misfortune, and she's talking to him in her sultry voice. I'm like, I'm not sure he should be playing this until maybe he's a little bit older, right? Some of the costumes and things in it, some of the skins. But what advice would you give to him? What were the sort of challenges when you first started playing League? Is there anything you would do differently?
I mean, it's so long ago, right? I mean, I remember losing a lot. But what I had the most fun with was when I played at the beginning, I only played with friends. Like, I had a friend who really wanted me to get into it. So I played with them, and that always made the experience fun, right? Because even if I didn't know what the hell I was doing, I was having them to carry me, guiding me, showing me the ropes. And I think specifically nowadays, you need that. I mean, the learning curve is even steeper than what I got in 10 years ago, right? So I think you need someone who will, bear with your shortcomings at the beginning and your learnings, and do the hard work while you just learn the ropes and accommodate your lack of skill, you could say, right, when you've just started out.
Yeah, well, maybe we can do like a bot lane partnership or something, right?
Exactly, something like that, right?
Yeah. Who would I be though? Support or ADC? I wonder. I want to say support more. Just protect him.
I think that would be good, right? Maybe something like a Thresh, just to throw the lantern every time he missteps or whatever. And never on that sense or something like that.
That's great. I'll take that on board. Thank you, Duckling. So you're, by my maths, you're 21 now, and you've been juggling your NLC casting work with exams. Is that right? That must have been a challenge.
Yeah. I mean, I'm someone who can work very intensely, but obviously you can't do that forever, right? So these first few weeks of the year was one part of the day really focused on exams. The other part of the day focused on prepping for the NLC. I felt a huge responsibility, you could say, not just to make sure we focused on the big dogs coming in, but I wanted to make sure we also did justice to every other existing organization in the NLC, right? And I think we've really hit the nail on the head for that right now. As I've spent the time making presentations on every single team for us all to have the same foundation and understanding of each and every organization story, how they developed, how they've changed, what they've achieved throughout their lifetime, and I think that's crucial in us being able to tell the correct stories about the teams.
What's it? And speaking of teams as well, what is it like going from covering the teams we've had in recent years to these bigger names coming in? Perks and Yankos on the Ruddy Sack, and I Will Dominate. We've got Cadril. He is the sort of one that's brought a lot of these massive names in, like Reckless, and he's getting these big views. What's that like? Do you feel a bit more pressure, covering those bigger names, or is it more exciting, or maybe a bit of both?
I mean, there is obviously clearly more excitement, right, about these big teams. I think it's a huge thing for me. For example, with the Ratones roster, with with Nemesis and Reckless, right? Growing up as a huge Fnatic fan, I've been that for 10 years. Remember, going to the fan meets, meeting Reckless and Nemesis, and obviously have huge respect for what Perks and Yankers have achieved in the European space. They're both absolute legends. So obviously it is exciting, but I do also feel like over the course of these years with some of the players we have in our own scene, you grow a fondness towards them, right? I mean, they are your little local talents, you could say, that who you also want to make sure get the platform to see if they can step up and play against these world-class players in Reckless, Nemesis, Crowny, Perks, Yankers. I mean, the list goes on and on right at this point in the NLC.
Yeah, 100%. And I couldn't interview and not ask you about predictions, so I'd love to hear your thoughts. Obviously, we've had week 1. Cagel's team are off to a good 2-0 start, but I do think there's a few dark horses in there and a few teams that might surprise people. Obviously, Nord have an interesting roster as well. Who do you think we'll see in the playoffs and maybe winning Split 1? I know it's quite early to say, or maybe your general thoughts on the teams.
Yeah. I mean, I posted a tier list on Twitter, right? And so far that has remained largely true, I want to say. There were a lot of teams with a lot of unknown variables, which was hard to account for.
Yeah.
But I think I put Lost Ratones and Nord as my two favorites. I think they have the most solidity for now. I think Ruddy Sec can be a bit up and down like we saw in Game Week 1. Obviously, it's hard to account for Yamato subbing in, right? And how that changes. They did look miles better with Leader in the team.
Yeah.
As he dominated that game against Chaos, but I put them right beneath, but I do think they can challenge. I think the wildcards in my eyes would be, I think people were sleeping on Rich Gang. I think even with, that win against Ruddy Sec was with Yamato playing. I think they have a roster with some players who have a very high ceiling alongside some experienced talent who doesn't waver in the face of these big names, right?
Yeah.
And are able to just play it like it was any other game. So, I mean, they would be my favorites to be the dark horse, but just below that, I think DMG has the potential. B-Score looked good in week 1, their rookie who was the variable for me. And then Verdant, again, big names, but my question mark was their big names able to deliver? I mean, big ERL names, you could say, right, in Ronaldo. I think No Name as well. No Name, though, luckily seems to be back at his best after a disappointing 2024. So, I mean, there are a lot of teams, and I think even the teams below can surprise. Just take a look at Bulldog, right? Looking at that bot lane, Exofing and Kasing. Really excited for Exofing. He does look to be a real prospect, mechanically speaking, although their games have been a bit up and down so far.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I'm looking at your tier list now. Yeah, you've put DMG and Verdant in B, below your top 4, and then Venomcrest, Bulldog, Lightside, and Chaos. As sort of like C tier, but yeah, who knows what will happen. And you mentioned UK talent, No Name, Kasing, real veteran, and these names that are sort of well known now. I didn't follow No Name that closely last year, but I did interview him a few years ago. He was in the Spanish league, right? So he had a bit of a disappointing season year. You're saying last year. What do you think of the different talent in the? We seem to have a nice even split. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I did look the other day. I think we've got like 11 UK players, something like that, and it seems to be well split. Do we have like a nice mix of Danish talent as well? I think it's Danish and Swedish that we have quite a few. Of.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we don't have a Danish org in the league, right? So we have to be represented somewhere else, and that comes through our talent. I think we have still a lot of talent. Just looking at the Danish league this year, it's really taken a step up in level as well. Having a team down there myself competing, it's certainly a much more rough landscape than it was just last year. So, yeah, I think it is a good mix when I looked over it as well, right? A lot of Norwegian talent, as you can see, on Rich Gang, Swedish talent as well, and Lofty from Venomcrest. There are talents from all of the national. Maybe Finland might feel a bit underrepresented, but. Yeah. I know they have some talent brewing just beneath the level of the NLC that could potentially make their breakthrough in half a year's time or who knows when.
So I got it wrong, right? This is according to Liquipedia. We have 3 UK players. I thought we had more than that. Xmatty. Let me bring it up here. Right? Yeah, Xmatty, Kasing, and No Name. Because you mentioned Kasing and No Name. So that's it says 6% of the players are UK. Then you've got Portuguese 8%. Norway 10%, players like Leader, Banderas and so on. Germany 10%, No way. Came in, players like that. Sweden is 16%. I was right. I was right. Sweden and Denmark have the highest amount, 16% each.
I am good. That's good to hear. That's good to hear. I'm happy for them like that.
Finland, I don't think we've got
Nah,
any players, apparently.
I mean, no NUEL this bit, right? He was always the staple for Finland. I have heard about a name called Menenkainen,
right.
from the Finnish scene, who played for DMG during the Aurora Cup, who they believe in, from what I know.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there is some talent brewing. They were always doing good in NLC Div 2 last year as well. Blue White's obviously getting promoted, right? So
Yeah.
I think Finland have a lot of talent, and we see that when the nations meet at the NLC RPS. Denmark certainly haven't been on top there, but I guess that's because all our best talent has already been soaked up by the big ERLs and NLC Div 1.
That's it. There we go. I should also say as well, Highbridge is an Irish player.
Yeah, Highbridge, yeah.
On light side. So, I believe. So, yeah, there's that as well. I think, to be honest, that's most of my stuff here, Duckling. Is there anything else you want to add? We've had a good chat about NLC changes. I don't know. Maybe is there anything else you want to add, or maybe anything you want to see, or what you think the future will be like for the region? Maybe.
No, I mean, if anything, right? I think we could. I could elaborate a bit on my 2022. I don't think I've really.
Yeah, but
I maybe just touched on that briefly, right?
yeah, because that was when we last had the viewership record. I've got the stats somewhere. I think it was like 14,000. We had peak viewership, and I remember doing that article actually. I can't remember what caused that little spike, but yeah, maybe you wanted to talk about your 2022, and I think that's when you said like you did the EMEA Masters as well.
No, I mean, yeah. I mean, 2022 for me was like a big year, right? I think at 18, getting that breakthrough, and so quickly as well, right? I made my NLC Div 2 debut, I think in February, and then to make EMEA Masters before I really got a Div 1 was a surreal experience. I think the people I was there with guided me a lot, in particular Trouble, who as well went out of her way to spend time with me VOD reviewing and going through the games afterwards was something that I really did appreciate. But it was also like a big learning experience for me as a person, right?
Yeah.
My whole summer vacation going back and forth to Berlin was very draining, flying back and forth, and I was very bad at the start of the school year next year because I was just so drained after spending my whole summer vacation. And I think I learned a lot, especially about I have maybe sometimes in my career been a bit too naive to do more and more, right? And when you had that breakthrough at the NLC, all of a sudden, and EMEA Masters, you really get that urge to just do more and more. And I think I did some of that too quickly, you can say. And I've certainly made some mistakes that year as well that definitely I think I've learned from. But at the end of the day, it has all, I think led to this year, which in my gut feeling now is a year that I really want to, retake off, right? Because I think the past few years have been, some might say, think I could have fallen off or whatever since I haven't been on the EMEA Masters. I still think I've seen a steady growth, but it's not like I look back on the past 2 years being ultimately satisfied with what I've done, not just from what I've casted, but with the level I've performed at as well. And I think, as I mentioned earlier, the environment this year in the NLC feels different. Not just from the teams, right, but also, as I said, behind the scenes. We've really this year, I feel like there's an environment that cultivates growth. Arshram has really taken a more leading role in providing the foundation and structure for us to move forward. And I was already excited for this year coming in to 2025, feeling like I'd built a good foundation for myself in 2024. And then, I spent most of the off season guesting on Leicester City fan channel on UK Blue Tinted Glasses.
Oh, right.
I'm main analyst actually talking about Leicester City there, as I'm a big Leicester fan.
I didn't know that. What? So you've done like football fan channel work?
Yeah. I mean, it's actually the biggest growing Leicester City fan channel now as well.
Right.
So I mean, I've done a lot of that, right? I really want to get into more desking, as I think it's something I don't want to say forced to do at the beginning, but something I'd happily do it, but I didn't really see it as one of my main things. But this year as well, I think I've really found a respect or an intriguement for what the desk provides, this trailer or foundation for what you should look out for in a game that I've really taken a liking to. And I think my first week of desking showed that, while there's still, much to improve on, as I am not an analyst as a play-by-play caster. I really wanna do more desking work in the future. But I would love to be seen as one of, I don't know that many play-by-plays who does it. Initialize does it well as well, and I think Medic too, to be honest, on the LEC. But not many play-by-plays are able to seamlessly switch between those roles, as they are very different.
Yeah.
But I'd like to be one of those who have both of those in my locker as well.
Yeah, 100%. So you're a Leicester fan then?
Yeah.
You see, I didn't know that. You don't. What got you into Leicester? I'm intrigued now.
That was back in around the title win, right? When I was at that age, you obviously knew about the UK or the Premier League through FIFA, but that was pretty much it. But I really found an identity in Leicester, right? That I stuck with the ambition to punch above your weight, even if you maybe aren't the favorite. I felt that a bit when I was younger in casting, right? Often my age result would either be seen as, you're very unproven or maybe too unstable or whatever. And that identity I really liked about Leicester, trying to beat the odds, you could say. And then some of the personalities as well. Obviously, Jamie Vardy, elite level shithousery there from him in general, and Kasper Schmeichel as well in being, a stable force and a very famous Danish player. So I've stuck with him ever since. It's been very up and down. I was actually in Leicester last year to watch them play against Plymouth Argyle in the championship, and I ended up getting interviewed for the BBC Leicester radio and something like that. It was crazy. Yeah, they wrote a whole article about it, to be honest.
Oh, you have to link that, and then I can link that in the article I do on this interview.
I'll gladly send it in. But then this fall, during the off season, I wanted a way to keep improving and working on my, especially desking, right?
Yeah.
So I found that channel, and once they had me on once, they kept inviting me back because they liked what I had to say. So now I'm a regular member on the blue tinted glasses for Leicester City.
Well, as an Arsenal fan, I don't know how we lost that season where you won it. We just fell away. At the start of the year, we were top. And then you caught up. Tottenham was second. Then we overtook Tottenham right at the end. Yeah. And Vardy, I remember, declined an offer from Arsenal. We put in a bid, I think, that around that time to sign Vardy, and he said no. And now he's become a Leicester legend.
Yeah, he's like in Leicester City terms, right? He is the GOAT. Even the club, when they tweet out about him, he's the GOAT. They've just made a new collection of clothes with him as well. Jamie Vardy number 9, GOAT.
Right.
He is, I think, especially, which is something I rarely get to enjoy, right? When I watch my Danish club, Copenhagen, who I grew up watching through my dad. It's always been, when you're a club in Denmark, your best talent will always go abroad, so you have to enjoy them while you have them. Yeah. And while I think in England and for Leicester, that often still remains true, as their philosophy is selling one big asset every year to then reinvest it. It's rare we get to see a player like Jamie Vardy who sticks around for his whole career nowadays, and especially, turning down these big offers in the modern day game is very rare. And I think outside of just the fact he scored 140 something Premier League goals as a Leicester player, the loyalty he showed in the modern era is not often matched, and I think that's what made him the legend, right?
Yeah, I agree. Well, I like how we meandered into football there, and Leicester City and so on. That's an interesting bit of info. Maybe someone will add that onto your Wikipedia or whatever it is, fandom page.
I don't think it gets updated too much anymore. I'd love to see someone make a page about my team as well in the Danish scene, like E-Dogs. We need a page as well.
E-Dogs, what is that? Is that your league team? Do you have a team?
Yeah, that's my own little league team in the Danish First Division.
Okay, I haven't done my research. Right, okay. So
there isn't much info available about it, to be honest.
Well, tell us about them then. I can't end the interview and not ask you about them. When did you set them up, and I guess what are your goals? Because if you did make it through to the NLC, you'd probably have to move back as a caster potentially. I don't know.
I don't actually know the rules quite yet, but I'll make it very clear, right? Casting is my bread and butter. That's always what I'll be doing. Yeah. So whatever the prize, casting will be what I prioritize, really. So no doubts about that at the very least. But I obviously think for a long time, I'm a big football manager player, right? It would be fun to have your own team. Can't quite do that in football. But last summer, the former Ruddy manager, Gifte, reached out and we discussed about it, and she has the available skill set to make it a possibility. So we got a team in the second division. Yeah. We lost in the semifinals 2-1, so didn't get promoted naturally, but luckily with the whole ecosystem changing and all this, some teams were dropping out and whatever, and a spot opened up that we were able to get our hands on.
Yeah.
And so far we are 1-1 this season. I think we have a roster with a very high skill ceiling, including players, like the guy you'll know is E-Roller, right? Former NLC finalist and whatever, right? EMEA Masters and all this. He's the mid lane of the team.
Okay.
And I think alongside that, we've got some very promising talent, but more unproven, you can say. I think they have a very high ceiling, and there is still much growing to be done. I mean, experiencing some growing pains, some up and downs right now, but I do have faith in them that they'll improve, and hopefully, right, they make Denmark proud, because it has been a long time since there's been a Danish organization to be proud of, you can say. And if it leads to potentially getting into the NLC or whatever, and what the rules may be, that's something I'll take as it comes. But for now, I'm just enjoying the experience, and I'm learning a lot from it as well, right? Being in more, you can say, a CEO position, making these more broader decisions, and I'm really enjoying that, as I have also just finished a semester where I did study organizational theory, and applying my theory to practice, right?
Well, it sounds really exciting. Good luck with the team. And I mean, if they did make it to the NFC, I guess it would be that thing of where you've had some LEC casters working as like content creators, or for orgs. When that happens, I think they often, I might be wrong, but I think they just don't commentate over the games with those.
Yeah, and I mean, if it came to be, right, I'd either have to sell the spot to someone who would keep it. I mean, I'd love to keep a Danish org in there, so I'll probably find someone to succeed me, and then I'll leave it as that, if that's what needs to be happening. And because I will make it very clear, right, casting is my number one priority. So even getting my own team in the NLC wouldn't change that.
Can I just check lastly? Did you say E-Ducks or E-Dogs?
E-Ducks, so as Duckling, right? So
right,
E-Ducks.
okay, yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, it makes sense. And on that, just lastly, so you're known as Duckling, and you've been that young talent, but as you grow older, would you change your name to Duck?
I mean, I've had that question a lot of times, and I think maybe now as well, with the new audience tuning into the NLC, with more either obscure or more I see grown-up names. Of course, caster names are rarely grown up, right? They are often still rooted in just the gamer tags from the good old days. I don't think so, to be honest, unless it really becomes weird. I mean, I saw someone in I Will Dominate chat when I made a point about Roddy saying, yeah, this guy's name's Duckling. He's clearly an industry plant. I guess I have like the Disney Channel name or something, whatever. Now the people say, yeah, how did this guy get here with that name? Surely it's an industry joke or whatever. But nah, it's all in good fun, right? I like Duckling. It's a part of me now. I think more people have started to call me just Duck, and they are welcome to do that. But changing it to Duck would not just feel right, and I don't know what else I would change it to. So it's sticking around for until I potentially find something better. But it has huge sentimental value now, you could say.
Yeah, I personally think it's good to stick to your brand, because I've seen players change their names over the years, and I don't think that's worked, because you get people watching a broadcast saying, "Who's this player? Oh, it's that guy or that person or whatever," and it gets confusing, and you dilute your brand a little bit. So I think it'd be good to see you stick with it. But if you did in the future decide to change it to Duck, just note there are quite a few Ducks in esports that I know of in UK esports. Yeah.
Oh wow. Yeah, I mean, I know Ducky Visuals, right? From back in the day, who I've worked with. But that's the only real name that comes to mind.
Well, across different esports, the main Duck for me is in Counter-Strike, Duck Moriarty, who's done journalism work and coaching. He's worked with Reason Gaming, and then you've got I think there's a Ducky. There's a Duck who does like video work, social media work, and all that. Anyway, I don't want to go off too much of a tangent, but there are other Ducks. But in terms of, I don't think there are other Ducklings.
I don't think there are either. And I mean, again, it's very much become part of my brand, of my personality. So I'm enjoying it. It also allows me to have, you could say, the youthful excitement still. I'm feeling you, but I'm still the youngest guy on the team, if I recall correctly, in the NLC, right? Only 21. And I think one of my big things is the natural excitement I have. I want to see every team succeed, right? You really get to grow fond of them when you look into them and prepare for them. And I think it's actually something Trouble and me talked about in the green room while watching the games last week, that she did mention. Obviously, it's important not to overhype everything, because if everything is hype 100%, nothing is hype.
Yeah.
And obviously, I think that's a very good point, but just know deep down, even if I try to hide it, right, I'm secretly cheering for every single team to perform or outperform the expectations laid out for them, as I definitely grow a connection with them, I can say, through just prepping for them. You get to get an understanding of the players, and as we see them more during the interviews on the NLC as well, right, you really want to see all of them succeed, even though obviously eventually someone will have to draw the short end of the deal.
That's it, 100%. Duckling, it's been an amazing chat. I really appreciate your time. Sorry I was a bit late joining today.
No worries, man. No worries.
I appreciate it. Everyone watching this, thanks again to Duckling for his time. Thanks to you for watching. Thanks to Aegon by AOC for sponsoring our content. And please do give Duckling a follow. NLC, the Rosie NLC, a follow. And I hope you check out Esports News UK, and I'll be back soon with lots of NLC content this year. Right, so there was something else we wanted to touch on as well, and that's the organisers behind the NLC, because we didn't really talk about that. The organisers have changed a few times over the years. We've got Leagues Media now, and Duckling, you said you've worked with them since you were 15.
Yeah, I mean, back then, right, it was only just one department in Leagues at GG, but they were responsible for the Danish league back in the day, that I got into casting when I was still, just 15 years old, and I've worked with them ever since. For a period of time, I did a bit of social media content for them in a period of time as well. I covered some of the Counterfeit tournaments when they had that and helped them out. But I mean, no, at the end of the day, right, I think it's more, there have been so many questions about the organizers in the NLC in the past with changing organizers, and after the, you can say the ruins freaks for you left them in, or left the league in afterwards. It has obviously taken some time to pick it all back up and reassemble the pieces, but I'm personally very confident in the direction the league is taking, and there is no, I mean, other org that I would have behind it that I know of running it than Leagues at GG, because, I mean, knowing the individuals in there, knowing the passion, and even just before they got, or years before they had the rights to the NLC in 2020, 2021, when I talked with them, it was very clear they had ambitions and passions for where the league and our era would be heading, right? And I think we are starting to see more of that implemented with the changes coming in 26, 2027, right? The tease, the LAN events potentially coming as well. I think, I'm very happy with the direction they're heading in, and I think, I hope people are excited as well. It's at the very least people who I trust very much, who are now behind the wheel, which, as someone working on the product, gives that stability to just focus on your work and not be worried too much about what's going on at the upper floors of the hierarchy.
Yeah, I second that as well. I think they've been very helpful to me. They seem to be doing a great job. So good luck to Leagues Media as well. And I think, just to point out, so there's Leagues GG and then there's Leagues Media as well. I think they told me that Leagues Media is the arm that like runs the league and so on.
Yeah. They have they have like an online platform as well that we use down in the Danish division and such. It. And I think after they've grown so much, they've split it up, right? So they have their department, Leagues at GG, now focused on that and the gaming platform, while they have also, in terms of the branding and running the tournament and all this, that's now just Leagues Media.
That's it, yeah. Well, thanks again, Duckling, and good luck with the NLC this year.
Thank you.